Hi, Tuesday morning, ladies. Hey, it's so nice to see you. I haven't been able to be in a Tuesday morning refresher in quite a few years because right now I would be up in my classroom on the second floor teaching students technology and Bible. And so I have a substitute teacher in there. His name's Cody. Say a little prayer for him while I'm in here that he, the kids stay alive and do something productive. I told him, I was like, as long as they're alive and they're doing something productive and they're not running amok, you have succeeded. So yeah, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Today we're going to be talking about temperament and personality and God's design for us. Last year in Richer, I did a study called "I Said This, You Heard That." It was just that title intrigued me. This idea of communicating and maybe not communicating what you thought you communicated intrigued me. And so we did this study by Kathleen Edelman. And as we did the study, every week the ladies and I were like, what did we just learn? Whoa. And we found out there were really practical things that we could learn from the Lord and practical steps that we could take to improve our communication with our spouses and kids and coworkers and neighbors, the people that we would even run into in the store. And then over the summer, Kathleen Edelman wrote another book called A Grown-Up's Guide to Kids Wiring. I have both of them here. And so as Shannon and I were talking about it, she was asking me how Enricher was going. I was telling her all about it in exciting, fun-filled ways. And she said, we need to bring this to the ladies as a whole, a wider audience. And so we had kicked around a couple of ideas, and they didn't really work out. And then when we came to In the Company of Women, she goes, hey, what do you think about teaching the book? And I'm like, and she's like, do the whole thing in one session. And I'm like, fine, that sounds great. So I am not going to do the book justice. I'm not going to do the topic justice today because it's such a broad topic. I would highly recommend if we get to the end of this is interesting to you, this is something that you think might be helpful for your relationships, get the book. Just get the book. It's great. The other thing that I really like about Kathleen's books is they both have extra resources that go with them. There is a YouTube channel for each book. So if you do YouTube, you can watch videos of her teaching and interacting with people. There's resources, there's guides to help you speak in such a way that builds other people up. If you're a parent in this room, I can't recommend this book to you enough because it gives some very specific ways to model how to speak to your children in a way that's life-giving. And then along the way, all throughout the book, of course, as I'm flipping through it, I can't find one. There's these little QR codes where you can just scan it and watch a short video, like a 2-minute video that's about what she's talking about right then. So Grown-Up Guides to Kids Wiring, it's worth the read. All right. So before we get started, when you listen to this, it's going to sound a little bit like psychology. That's because Kathleen Edelman is a psychologist. She is a licensed psychologist. She's a counselor. She's based in the Atlanta area. And I just need you to know right off the bat, I am not a psychologist. I'm not a counselor. In fact, I'm usually the one that goes to counseling. No, right? Because sometimes we need that. But if I say anything that sounds smart, it's usually because I learned it from her. And if you come to me with questions going, hey, my kid is like this, and my spouse is like this, and what should I do in that? I'm going to go, you know what? I'm going to pray for you because I'm not an expert in dealing with very specific situations, but I have really learned some principles that I think I can pass along to you, and I think will be beneficial. All right, so can I pray before we get started? All right, I know we just did, but I feel like I need to do it again. God, we love you. God, I'm so grateful for you. I'm grateful for what we've been able to learn about your design for us and how you've made us. You've made us uniquely wired and for a purpose. It's not accidental, it's intentional. And so, God, I pray that you would give us wisdom to be able to identify and see how you've made us in these unique ways and to use that to speak life into the people around us, to bless them, to be gracious to them. So as we talk today, God, would you bless us in the word? We ask for your presence to be here. We ask these things in your name. Amen. All right, so we need to start with I'm pressing the wrong button. Let's go back one. There we go. All right, so let's talk about this idea of temperament. It's very interesting. Today we're going to be talking about temperament, and sometimes the word temperament gets confused with personality. In fact, the way this session was represented to you, it's like we're going to talk about personality. We're going to do a personality test. I'm sorry, we're not talking about personality today. We're talking about temperament. Temperament and personality have some similarities, but they are distinctly different. Your temperament is innate. Your personality can be molded and can change, and it can be changed by experiences, both positive and negative. Sometimes even traumatic experiences change your personality. Your personality can grow and change, but your temperament is something that's innate. It's inside of you. It's kind of like your native language. It's the thing that comes naturally to you. Your temperament is like your fingerprints and your eye color. You're born with it. But unlike eye color, temperament has nothing to do with genetics or environment. In our family, Kevin and I both have temperaments that tend to be extroverted. But our children all have temperaments that tend to be introverted. So obviously that didn't come genetically. How did we do this? And when I kind of realized that, I looked at my husband and I was like, how did this happen? It was part of God's design. We were designed by God with the temperament we have. We see this in Psalm 139, verses 13 and 14. It says, "You formed my inward parts. You knitted me together in my mother's womb. I praise you, Lord, for I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Wonderful are your works. My soul knows it well." We love this verse because it talks about that God has given us a purpose from before we were born, and God intentionally designed us. A lot of times, especially as women, I think we think about it talking about the outside of us. And that's true, but it's also our inward parts. When I first read this verse, I thought, well, yeah, God made our bones and our organs and our muscles and all the inside guts, right? That's what he means by inward parts. But that's not what a person reading this in the original Hebrew would have understood. We understood it as, organs, but that's not what the original intent was. The original intent is this idea of the inward parts refer to the seat of emotion, how we are on the inside. And that was like that from your mother's womb. So your temperament was given to you, designed to you by God, knitted together in your mother's womb from before you were born. And the psalmist says his response to that is, I praise you, God. I'm fearfully and wonderfully made. So temperament helps to determine a person's interests, their behaviors, their tendencies. It shapes how you speak and how you hear. For example, you have a toddler, they're with you in the kitchen, you're working on dinner, and if a toddler starts going up to the stove and you say hot, for a toddler of one temperament, they're going to jump back. They're going to go hide behind your leg. But for another toddler, they're going to be like, hot? Let me go check that out for myself. What does hot mean, right? That wasn't taught. That's something that's innate in them. That's part of their temperament. The temperament can influence personal relationships. It can help you have compassion and understanding for others, or it can cause misunderstandings between people. So let me ask, has something like this ever happened to you? Have you ever enthusiastically explained a plan just to have those around you clam up or eye roll or resist you at every path along the way? Parents of teenagers, can I get an amen? Yes, okay. Have you ever told a joke in a way you're kidding with somebody else and it just sets them off in a sour mood? That could be a conflict between temperament. Have you ever identified a problem at work and suggested a solution and then just had it blow up in your face with your boss? That's not really a personality conflict. That could be a conflict with temperament. Have you ever noticed that the thing that sets one person off into a stressful bout of anxiety and fear, that same thing when viewed by another person is a daring adventure or a bold challenge? That view has to do with their temperament. So we're going to watch a video in a minute about a family on vacation. Each person in the video represents a different temperament. And you're going to see how they approach, through their temperament, this exciting and relaxing week of vacation. You're also going to see something that stresses it out and how they respond to it. Let's watch the video.
sweet, a mini bar.
Okay, kids, your room will be ready in half an hour, so just put your bags in the corner.
Oh, look at this view. Come here, kids. Look at this view. Honey, you are going to love this view. Come on.
I already saw it when we came in.
Now you all can see how my hard work was paid off.
Suitcases on the floor. Do you know how many germs are on those suitcases? What are you looking for? We've been in here for 30 seconds. This room was perfect. We have the sheet on the bed. And this. Honey.
Kids, listen to your mother.
Hey, Mom, can we go explore?
I want to chill before we go to the pool.
Yes, the pool. Mom, can we go to the pool?
You can go as long as you stay together. And do not talk to any strangers.
Okay, family, the plan for tonight. It is presently 4 p.m. We are having Italian food. Our reservation is 5 p.m. All right? Then we will take a trip down the boardwalk. We will stop at 6 p.m. for ice cream. You're welcome. Then we will go to the pool. Then we will all be in bed by 9 p.m. sharp. All right? We have a busy day tomorrow.
I thought this was vacation.
Oh no. Oh no. Flood kit, first aid kit, where is it?
Hey, Mom, you're on a vacation live stream. Say hi.
All right, so I had it at the kitchen table. I replaced the expired lidocaine.
Mom, do you want me to help you look for something?
What is she looking for? We don't know.
The fire kit. I didn't put it back in the bag.
Mom, there's not gonna be a fire. Fire!
Everyone, we practiced this before at the house. This is no different. Grab your shoes, grab your stuff, and stay low behind me. Come on.
This is awesome.
I knew something like this was gonna happen.
This is so great. I'm gonna grab my camera and get a time
This is too good to be
Y'all
true.
need to start moving right now.
Honey, please stop yelling.
I'm not yelling.
Well, can you not yell quieter?
Mom, I don't smell smoke or hear any fire engines.
Smith family, there is a fire. We need to leave now.
No, we have to stay together.
No one is going anywhere. Awesome. What can I have said differently? What can I have said differently? Hey, honey, I can see that you're frustrated.
We gotta get out of here. You guys just go without me and I'll just get organized here.
How about we stop at the drugstore on the way back from dinner and we get a whole new fire
It
kit?
doesn't matter. I'm not prepared now.
I understand why you're upset, but I need you to help me get us out the door. And I just need to make sure that we are safe and outside. Okay?
You're right. You're right. Let's do it. Let's do it. Okay.
Hey, buddy. Oh, hey. Hey, I got an idea for your video thingy. Maybe your phone follower people might want to see firefighters in action. How about we go downstairs now and catch them in action while they're still here?
Dad, you're a genius. See you down there. Burn out. It would have been so cool if that had been a big boom and fire trucks would have been everywhere. Dad, you like fire?
Okay,
fire trucks would have been everywhere, man.
Regroup. All right, Plan A is back on.
So, does this mean we can go to the pool?
Girl, if you don't stop talking about that pool.
Hey, Dad, you like fire trucks? The fire trucks would have made. They would have made a lot of. Come on. Hey, have you found my yellow shirt?
Yeah. So, did you see yourself in that video? Did you see somebody that you know or love in that video? I did. So maybe you're sitting here and maybe you're dying to find out what temperament you are. Maybe you're trying to figure out, I wonder what temperament my husband is, or my child is, or my boss is. We're going to figure out how to identify temperaments in other people, but like Shannon said earlier, we're going to learn ourselves. And so we're going to do a little mini assessment. The assessment, if you do end up getting the book, both books come with a full assessment. The full assessment is 40 questions long. We're not going to take 40 minutes. It has a lot of reliability and validity, but we're going to do a mini assessment, and it's only 12 questions long. If you have a handout in front of you, you need your handout, you need a little pen. You should see on the front side of the paper, the side that's not colorful. The colorful side is the back side. On the front side, you should see just a plain, yeah, thank you, that would be awesome. You should see a grid with 4 squares in it. And for this test, I'm going to show 12 questions on the board, and you're going to see a grid with 4 squares on it. I need you to choose the choice that most is like you, the one that you would most be like, pick the best available option for you. There is not one option that's better than the other. If you're looking, okay, 1, 2, 3, 4, that's the best option. That's the one I most want to be like. That's not how I want you to do. I want you to pick the one that's most like you. There's not one better than the other. I want you to think about how you typically think and behave on a good day without any outside influences or stressors. So not how you're responding to someone else, not how you act in stress, not how you act to your boss or when your husband's around. Just you on a good day, just you and God, okay? Pick the one that best describes you. So the other thing you need to do is relax and not overthink it, which is hilarious. Yeah, right. I know you girls. We all overthink things. So you're just going to pick the one. Now, so how are you going to record your scores? If you pick the one on the top left is the one that, like, yes, that's the one I follow the most, you're going to put a tally mark in that one. If you pick the one on the top right, you put a tally mark there. And they may all land in one area. They'll probably spread out. You'll probably have some in all of them. But you're just going to put tally marks in the quadrant of the choice that you choose, all right? I know this is not ideal and this is not the most reliable way to do this test, but it was the easiest one that required the least amount of paper. Are we ready to try it, ladies? Yes. Let's do this, okay. All right, which one best describes you? Top left, energetic, lively, exhibiting love and affection openly. Top right, you're motivated to achieve goals, you're eager to be the leader. Bottom left, flexible, able to adapt to new conditions, calm in the midst of chaos. Bottom right, logical, gathering facts and data, you like lists. Put a tally mark in the quadrant that matches you. There's 12 of these. Did I say that there were 12? There's 12. All right. All right, I'm not going to let you overthink. Let's go. All right, next one, which describes you best? Top left, upbeat, always seeing the best in people and situations. Top right, confident, assertive with your opinions. Bottom left, cooperative, open to the needs and the ideas of others. Bottom right, detail-oriented, orderly, and tidy. I like it. That was easy. Very good. Next one. Which one describes you best? Can dominate conversations. Top right can be quick-tempered. Bottom left can be relaxed and hard to provoke or annoy. Bottom right, not confident in social situations. Which one describes you best? Top left, fickle, forgetful, making excuses, repeating stories. Top right, reluctant to admit mistakes or apologize, rarely giving compliments. Bottom left, no sense of urgency, resents being rushed. Bottom right, skeptical, sees obstacles, thinks about the worst case scenario. Next one. Which one describes you best? Top left. Oh my goodness, I just forgot my left and right. Top left, struggles with follow through, especially when things stop being fun. Top right, dislikes tears and emotions in others, can be unsympathetic. Bottom left, slow to get moving, a procrastinator. Bottom right, hard to please and critical, can be critical. All right, different kind of question. Which of these phrases are you most likely to say aloud or in your head? Top left, I'll do it if somebody does it with me. Top right, it's done, I took care of it. Bottom left, no worries, it will all work out. Bottom right, I've been giving this some thought. Next one, which phrase are you most likely to say aloud or in your head? Top right, I totally forgot about that, I'm sorry. Top right, just give me the bottom line. Bottom left, I don't really care, you decide. Bottom right, that won't work. I've already planned to. Which phrase are you most likely to say aloud or in your head? Top left, who else is gonna be there? Top right, you go, I have other things to do. Bottom left, do I have to go? Bottom right, what are we going to be doing? Knowing which one represents which one, I'm thinking of people while I'm saying it. So that's why I'm snorting to myself, sorry. You're like, why is she doing this? Okay, here we go. Which word best describes you? We're approaching the end, there's only a couple more. Which word best describes you? Choose the best option. Top left, energetic. Top right, ambitious. Bottom left, easygoing. Bottom right, analytical. Which word best describes you? Top left, people-oriented. Top right, productive. Bottom left, patient. Bottom right, detail-oriented. Is that the last one, or is there one more? I'm not sure. Oh, one more, here we go. Two more? Okay. Thank you, all my number people. Which word best describes you? Obviously, that's not me. Detail-oriented, not me. Which word best describes you? Curious, top left. Top right, delegates well. Bottom left, patient leader. Bottom right, deep and thoughtful. And this should be the last one. Which word best describes you? Choose the best option. Top left, imaginative. Top right, driven. Bottom left, even-keeled. Bottom right, compassionate. All right, you have 12 tally marks, right? Okay, so what you need to do now is you need to count up the tally marks in each box, okay? Score them in each box. Don't, just each one gets its own one, so count them up. Whichever quadrant has the most tally marks, that's going to be your dominant personality. And I'll tell you what they are in a second. If you have two that are kind of high, that's not unusual. Usually you have a dominant personality, and sometimes you have a secondary personality. They should be next to each other, either next to each other right, left, or next to each other up and down. It would be a little bit unusual for them to be diagonally across from each other because those diagonals tend to be opposites. If you are, fear not, just kind of pay attention as we go along and go, hey, which one should be my thing? Sometimes you'll pick up characteristics that have more to do with your personality. Maybe you're doing it as a reaction to something that you've been born, or if you have a person in your life, maybe a parent that helped lead you and guide you, you've picked up temperament and characteristics from them. So don't stress out, but pay attention to the characteristics and go, okay, which one is truly me? All right, so let's see what we got here. Oops, I just did this again. There we go. All right, these are our 4 temperaments. Our top left are the sanguines. Each temperament we're going to see corresponds with a color. I'm actually going to use the color word more than the label because they're just a little easy. So our yellows are sanguine. Our top right, red, are the cholerics. Bottom left, phlegmatic. and bottom right, melancholic. And you might be going, wait a second, I have heard these words before. Like, those have been around forever. This is not new and groundbreaking stuff. You're right, it's not, okay? These words initially were created and used by Hippocrates. He was a Greek physician. He's known as the father of modern medicine. His initial work and observations from hundreds and hundreds of years ago have been used as the foundation in a lot of modern psychological theories, a lot of personality tests that you may be aware of. Like if you've ever taken a DISC profile or the Myers-Briggs personality test, it's based on the same thing. But again, we're not talking about personality so much, we're talking about temperament. What are your innate characteristics? So let's talk about what these means. 2 of the 4 temperaments tend to be extroverted. That's our reds and our yellows. And 2 of them tend to be introverted. Those are our blues and greens. So like I said earlier, Kevin and I both tend to be extroverts. I'm a yellow. Does that surprise you? My husband's a red. Does that surprise you about him? Probably not. So we both tend to be extroverted. Our kids are blues and greens, combination of blues and greens, and they're introverted. And you might be going, wait a second, Sarah Taylor, I know your kids. They are not introverted. They are not shy people. They stand up, they lead, they talk, they're funny, they interact with people. They're not introverts. I'm not really talking about behavior so much as how you express and deal with your thoughts and emotions. So extroverts tend to direct their thoughts and their feelings outward. We process verbally. We are not afraid to show emotion. If we feel strong emotion, we show strong emotion. Your introverts, on the other hand, tend to direct their thoughts and feelings inward. They're going to process internally. They're going to be less likely to have a conversation about emotions unless they feel really, really safe. They direct those things inward. So, for example, when I talk to my son, Jack, I'll say, hey, what do you think about this? Or like I can tell he's upset about something. Hey, what are you feeling? What are you thinking? It's fine. Well, no, I can tell it's not fine. I need you to tell me what's in your mind. It's fine. I'm like, why is it going to be fine? Like sometimes my extroverted self, like I'll try to pick a fight with him a little bit to get him to react. Like I want to know what's going on inside you. And it causes a problem because he clams up even more. Right? So you can see that this could cause some conflict. There's another way you can kind of tell the temperaments apart. Your yellow and green temperaments, sanguine and phlegmatic, tend to be people-oriented. Your choleric and melancholy tend to be task-oriented. The task-oriented people want to accomplish things and make progress. That's super important. There's so much value in getting things done. But your people-oriented people, like who is around is more important than the to-do. The who is more important than the to-do. So without digging too deeply, you can see that these differences explain why some people keep their thoughts and opinions to themselves, while others have too much to say. Some of them are described as loud, and others are described as reserved. Some renew their energy by being with friends. Others renew their energy by being alone. Some people feel extra accomplished when they get things checked off their list, while others feel accomplished when they connect with others. And some people don't have lists at all. You know, this can cause conflict. I think of the husband on vacation who says, I'm just trying to enjoy some peace and quiet here, but all my wife wants to do is talk and meet up with people while we're on vacation, right? It can cause some conflict. I think of my husband, who is a red, who comes home from work and says, today was such a people day. I worked so hard, but I got none of the tasks on my to-do list done. It's a people day, and he likes getting tasks done. That's why one of his hobbies is like woodworking and DIY. He can see a project from start to finish. Your projects with people never have an ending point, right? I think of the coworker who complains that our meetings would not go so long if Nancy didn't verbally process every thought on every topic. Why can't she keep her ideas to herself until she's asked for input? But then Nancy's on the other side of the office thinking, why am I the only one who cares about any of these important decisions? Everyone else is just staring at the boss. It's got to be infuriating, right? So many interpersonal conflicts we have don't deal with one party being right and the other one being wrong. Instead, it tends to be around how things were communicated. And we all know that words matter, right? Words matter. All right, so we're going to go a little bit more into the strengths and the weaknesses. This is a little hard to see, but God created each temperament to be uniquely wired for a reason and for a purpose. Do we have any yellows in the room? Any yellows? Hands up if you're a yellow. Hey, friends, what's up? All right. Yellows are uniquely wired to see the best in people and circumstances. It helps them to connect broadly with people and enjoy many circumstances. Yellows like to have fun, right? Reds, where's my reds? Who are my reds in here? Yes, Shannon's a red. We got a couple reds in here. Reds are uniquely wired to be visionaries. They see and achieve goals. They can help groups of people and organizations get from where they are to where they need to be in a very efficient and direct way. All right, where are my greens? Hands up if you're a green. All right, we got some greens in the room. I got lots of love for my greens. Greens are uniquely wired to be calm in the midst of chaos. When faced with difficult situations, greens can help those around them calmly move forward and model this demeanor for others to follow. Sometimes greens have a really fun sense of humor. It can be total chaos around, and they're like, it's gonna be fine, and they crack a joke. And everybody, like, the tension breaks, and everybody moves forward. I love our greens. High five if you're a green. All right. Blues. Where are my blues? I knew you were a blue. My mother-in-law's there. She's totally a blue. Blues are uniquely wired to anticipate obstacles and come up with creative solutions for problems. Blues come in clutch because they don't miss a detail, and they usually have planned for a solution before the problem even exists, right? The blue in the video, she has, like, here's my fire alarm kit, here's my sunburn kit, here's my, right? She's already replaced the expired lidocaine. I would have been like, oh, it's expired, that stinks, right? They've solved the problem before it was even a problem. So God's design in this is very intentional. He's given us specific strengths that work together for his glory and for our good. Romans 12, 3-6a highlights this. Paul tells us that by the grace given to me, I say to everyone among you not to think of himself more highly than he ought to think, but to think with sober judgment, each according to the measure of faith that God has designed. For as in one body we all have many members, the members do not all have the same function, so we, though many, are one body in Christ, and individually members of one another. Having gifts that differ according to the grace given to us, let us use them. This is talking a little bit about spiritual gifts, but I think it applies equally to temperament. And it says, don't think of yourself more highly than you ought to think. You might be tempted to go, well, I'm a red, I have the corner on leadership, so everyone needs to follow me, nobody else can lead. And that's simply not true. That's thinking of yourself more highly than you ought to think. Each one of these temperaments could be fantastic leaders. They can be fantastic workers. We need them all. In verse 4, it says, in one body we have many members, but the members don't have the same function. I think of another part of Scripture in 1 Corinthians 12. It says, if everyone were eyes, where would the sense of hearing be? We can't all function as reds. If we were all reds, we would all be bossing each other around. If we were all blues, we would all get stuck in the details and lost in the weeds, right? But God's given all of these things to work together. And it says because we're different, because these gifts, because our temperaments are different, we have a responsibility to use them. All right, so we're going to go a little bit further into the strengths of each temperament. At the bottom of your page, you see this nice little frame, and it says, my strengths. As we go through this, I'm going to read a list. It's going to get a little list-ready. I'm sorry. But as I do this, I want you to think, what are my strengths? As I look at the strengths of my temperament, which ones kind of bubble up to the top for me? You may not feel like you have all of the strengths, and that's okay. You probably don't. But I want you to pick 2, 3, 4 of them, because in a second, when we're done talking with the strengths and the weaknesses, we're going to have a little table time and let you process for just a little minute right in the middle of our time together. So it would be really important for this box, and then in a second, this box on the back, for you to write a couple things in there so when you have table time, you have something to talk about. Okay? Okay, let's go. All right, here are our strengths of our yellows. If you're a yellow in this room, pay attention, write down a couple things that bubble to the top that you're like, yeah, that's me. Yellow people tend to live in the moment. They're inspiring and open emotionally. They tend to be fantastic storytellers. They're optimistic and joyful. They're sincere. They can be quite persuasive. They're quick to volunteer. You probably have lots of yellows on your volunteer workforce. They tend to be spontaneous and they love variety. Yellows don't usually hold grudges. They're adventurous and expressive. They're usually easy to talk to and they like to collaborate. They inspire other people to join. Come on, let's go. They like a fun challenge. They're charming. They think quickly and they excel when visible results are seen. So yellows, write down a couple of those things, 2 or 3 things that you're like, yo, that's me. All right, let's go on to our reds. Reds tend to be dynamic leaders who delegate well. They're decisive, independent. They're energized by challenges. You give them a problem, they're like, yeah, let's go get it. They're bold and resourceful and pragmatic. They like things very practical. They tend to be competitive. They want to be productive. They lead and they encourage others to be productive. Reds are usually right. They're driven. They're influential. They like to get things done. They're responsible. They articulate ideas well. They're task-oriented. They set goals and they achieve them. They move quickly to action. I hope as you were sitting there, Reds, you go, yep, that's me, and you've written a couple down. On to our greens. Greens are considerate. They're easygoing and relaxed. They're quietly witty. They're usually even-tempered. They tend to be very friendly and reliable. They're responsible. You can count on them. They're compassionate. They can see different sides of an issue. They need clear goals so they know where they're going. They're generous with other people. They're tolerant of other people. They usually appreciate the strengths that they see in others. They tend to be forgiving, but cautious. They work well alone. They like to find the easy way to get something done. They're sensible and reflective. Greens, write a couple things down. And last are blues. Blues are deep and thoughtful. They analyze things. They're honest. They're very conscientious. Blues tend to be quite creative, and they keep things in order. Blues definitely like to work alone. They excel in research. They're going to find details. They can be perfectionistic. They can be sensitive to the needs of others. They're cautious in what they do. Blue children especially tend to be very respectful. Like they're the most respectful kids in the class usually. They like a schedule. They're very tidy. They want to be very accurate. They usually see the creative solution for a problem. They enjoy solitude. Blues love a good list. All my blues love a good list. They tend to be punctual and methodical. All right, so those all feel good, right? These are the great things. But along with every strength, there's a weakness. Weaknesses aren't necessarily bad. They're just weak. So flip it over, and as we go through the weaknesses, I would love for you to write a couple things down. Here we go. Our yellows, weaknesses in yellows. Yellows tend to exaggerate details, especially when they tell stories. I don't know who does that. Yellows don't usually remember names. Yellows tend to be too energetic and too happy. They tend to have a loud voice and a loud laugh. Yellows can be controlled by circumstances, and they can get easily angry. Sometimes yellows can come across as phonies. I see some yellow people like burying their heads. I love you. They can come across as phony. Yellows can forget obligations. Sometimes they can appear to be undisciplined. They can get easily distracted. Yellows usually hate being alone. Yellows can make excuses and be impulsive. Yellows can be disorganized. Yellows can be dramatic. They can be scatterbrained, and they can show off. I think I wrote down 18 of those on my list, just saying. So here we go. Reds. Reds can be bossy and impatient. They can be quick-tempered. It's hard for Reds to relax. Reds tend to come on strong. Reds have little tolerance for mistakes. They tend to be inflexible and demanding. They demand loyalty from others. They tend to make decisions for others. They have a hard time apologizing. Sometimes reds are headstrong and prideful. Sometimes they can come across as aggressive. They're slow to listen, but the end also always justifies the means. I'll tell a quick story on my husband. He's not even in the country right now, so hey. My husband was at lunch one day with another pastor on staff, and both of them are Reds. And they were having this really intense conversation. And they both come on strong. They both speak really loudly and really passionately. And so they're just having this really intense conversation. And they were at lunch together, and nothing was wrong. It was just an intense conversation. And a church member walks up to them at lunch, and they said, "Pastors, I don't know what you're arguing about, but it's inappropriate to argue in public." And both of them were like, "We're not arguing." They're like, "Yes, you are." They're like, "No, we're good. Everything's good. We're super happy and super excited." They're like, "It's inappropriate." And they had to convince the person that they weren't arguing. They were just being them. All right, greens. Sorry, that was totally side note. Don't tell them I told you that story. All right. Greens. Greens tend to be unenthusiastic. They're very indecisive. Greens can worry a lot. A lot of times that worry gets focused inward. Greens tend to be selfish and self-righteous, the way they see it as right. They lack motivation. They can appear lazy. They tend to discourage others. They have no sense of urgency. They tend to be uninvolved or indifferent to plans. They judge others. They can be sarcastic. They can resist change. They doubt themselves, they tease, they're messy, they tend to compromise, they're ambivalent, and they're stubborn. All right, blues. Let's talk about our blues. Blues tend to remember the negative. They're moody. They tend to be too introspective. They focus on their own imperfections. They're hesitant to start the projects partially because they know all the things that it would add to their to-do list. They can be hard to please. Their standards are too high. They're insecure socially, and they can be insecure with themselves. They will withdraw from others. They're critical of others. They are suspicious. They're antagonistic, very sensitive. They do not like being interrupted. They fear failure, and they're guarded. All right, so did you write down a couple strengths and a couple weaknesses? I'm going to give you about 15 minutes, and during this 15 minutes, I would like for you to think about your strengths and weaknesses that you wrote down, that you identified in yourself. I want you to talk about with your people, what were your overall impressions of your temperament's strengths and weaknesses? How have you seen these things play out in your life, and have people in your life mention these strengths and weaknesses to you, all right? We only have 15 minutes, so be mindful of letting other people talk at the table, letting other people process, okay? I'm talking to you, yellows. I'm talking to you. Don't dominate the conversation. All right, John's going to start the timer, and I'll be back in 15 minutes. Go. All right, my friends, hopefully everyone has had a minute to talk. Hopefully you've had a minute to share and process some of those things. For our internal processors, our introverts, that might have been a little awkward to have to process in a group, but hopefully our groups are small enough and you felt safe enough to be able to do that. When we went through the study last spring, one of our weeks was analyzing your strengths and weaknesses, and the job was to go through the list and to highlight the ones that you thought were your strengths and to highlight the ones you thought were your weaknesses. When I went through that and did it, I did it very thoughtfully and intentionally. I went through the list of strengths for yellow, and I thought, man, these strengths are stupid. I did. I was like, these are so superficial and so like meaningless and so fluffy. That's my strengths, really? And then I turned and I looked at my list of weaknesses, and they were so profound. They were like, why would anyone want to be around me with these weaknesses? I laugh at it now, but like when it was going on, like I cried for about an hour. Like I was really up in my feels about it. Like it was really upsetting to me. In the book, it actually asked, like, why don't you, if you feel upset or if you feel some kind of way about it, have someone close to you that you trust go through the strengths and weaknesses and have them pick 3 of each. So I was definitely, I felt some kind of way about it. And I asked Kevin, I was like, hey, baby, I got a list. Can you look at these 2 lists and pick the top 3 strengths that you think that I have and the top 3 weaknesses? And he goes, are you trying to trick me? And I'm like, no, I'm not trying to trick you. I'm just trying to figure this out. I would really like your input. I feel like of all the people in the world, you know me the best. And he's like, you right. So he wrote down my strengths. My top 3 strengths were adventurous, easy to talk to, and inspires others to join. He said my top 3 weaknesses were exaggerating, being easily distracted, and being disorganized. And he's like, are you mad at me? And I'm like, I'm not mad. But I said to him, like, I told him what I thought about the strengths being so fluffy and the weaknesses being so profound. And he's like, I don't see it that way. He goes, your ability to try new things and then to get others to join you in trying these new things and making everything an adventure, that's rare. There's not many people in the world that are like that, which made me feel like $1 million, right? I was like, okay. And I'm like, but what about these weaknesses? I exaggerate and elaborate. I'm distracted and disorganized. Like, those are actually true things about me. Like, there's parts of my house I don't want you to look at because of how disorganized they are. Don't go in my classroom and look at my desk, right? And he goes, those weaknesses do not take away from your strengths at all. He goes, those weaknesses I've seen are things that you work on, things that you have to keep in check. And when you keep those things in check, your strength is even stronger. When those weaknesses are out of check, then it's hard for you to walk in your strength. And he's totally right. When I don't have my junk together, when things get really disorganized and disheveled, physically and mentally, emotionally, when those things are not in check, it's hard for me to be adventurous. It's hard for me to try new things. It's hard for me to inspire others to join because that's such a mess. I thought that was very interesting. Maybe you can see that for yourself. So your weaknesses don't necessarily take away from your strengths. I love this phrase, and they had us do this in our study. It says, I have a tendency to something, but instead I will. So this, especially when it comes to weaknesses. So you have the opportunity to pause and choose. I have a tendency to be easily distracted, but instead I will choose one of my strengths. I will choose to be present and focus on the needs of the moment. Being distracted is a weakness, but being present is a strength. So I can pause and choose. Even though I know I have a tendency, I have an innate thing where I tend to be easily distracted, I'm going to choose to be present and focus on the needs of the moment. Or here's another one. I have a tendency to be disorganized, but instead I will choose to persevere in completing a task and do what I can to make it fun. That's how I can use my strength to keep that weakness in check. I wish we had time to sit here as a table. Maybe when you come home this afternoon, you'll take that little sentence, I have a tendency to, but instead I will. Maybe you'll do that for yourself and just see, how can I keep that weakness in check and make it instead be a strength? We're going to watch a quick video from the website. I'm not sure why that came up. We're going to watch a video. It's Kathleen Edelman, and she's talking to 4 different people, and each of these people represent a different temperament. I'll give you a hint. The people are wearing the color shirts, so the yellow girl is wearing a yellow shirt. That's helpful. And so she's going to talk about things that you should remember for each temperament about strengths and weaknesses. Let's watch it.
But I know that there's something unique about each temperament. And I know from my teachings that each temperament there's something that you all want the other temperaments to know. So I'm going to start with Andrew. The blue temperaments are uniquely wired to see obstacles and anticipate obstacles between A and B. Because the blues think analytically and they're creative, they can anticipate those obstacles and they can problem solve them. That's what's unique just to the blues. What the blues want people to know, though, is that they are deep. They want to be invited and they want to belong. Just because we appear private or reserved, we long for those relationships. You know, and you used even the word trust. And once you trusted other people, you know, the blues make very deep and loyal friends. And that's what they want. We want the other temperaments to know. The reds, you are visionaries. Nobody can throw a net and see a vision like a choleric red person. From A to B as clear can be. What I have heard over and over, what the reds want the other temperaments to know is, even though they are decisive and they're quick thinkers and you can see that goal and you're quick to action, that there is thought behind it. Even though it might come out as an order or maybe even bossy or impatient, you've thought it through. And a lot of cholerics do not get that benefit of the doubt. Now, part of the problem might be because you don't share that thought process with the other temperaments. But they do want you to know that if they do that, they've thought about it. Okay? The greens, what is unique to you that no other temperament shares is the calm in the midst of chaos. Nobody can stay as calm as the phlegmatic in the midst of chaos. And what that phlegmatic person wants you to know is that they have an opinion. They have great ideas, and they do have to learn to advocate for themselves, but they may want to be asked. You know, so if you have a green friend, keep in mind that they might have something they want to share, but they're unsure of it. So they're asking you to ask. Tony, my friend, this is what the yellows, this is the embodiment of seeing the positive in everything. That sanguine person is so in the moment. That yellow person is so present, not thinking about tomorrow or worrying about yesterday. They're so present. But what I love about the sanguine yellows is that they truly see the best in people first. And they truly see the best in circumstances first. So this person right here, always giving people the benefit of the doubt. What they would love the other temperaments to know is, even though they seem so motivated by fun and they're charismatic and they're on the move and lively, when need be or when required, these people are smart, they're intelligent, and they can be taken seriously. So they want you to know that.
I love that video. I love hearing Kathleen explain each of these temperaments. And if this is kind of interesting to you, if this is something maybe I want to dig a little deeper into, again, other than buying the book, the YouTube website, the YouTube video that they have is fantastic. And so you can watch the YouTube videos for free. The app that goes along, the I Said This, You Heard That, app has all of the videos for all of the teaching that corresponds with every session. They're out there for free. So I really appreciate that all of these things are available for free. I'm not sure why there's no color on this slide. That's okay. I think on your handout, yes, this is supposed to have color on it. I don't know why it doesn't, but it's this on the back of your handout. This is called the needs grid. So, along with the unique strengths and weaknesses of each temperament has its own specific needs. They have their own needs. And instead of thinking about needs that need to be met, I would really like for us to think of them as appetites that need to be filled. Okay? So if you look at red, one of the needs of red is they want to have appreciation and credit for work. So you could say to a red person, hey, I appreciate the work that you did. I appreciate you providing for us. That will fill that appetite for today, but they're going to have that appetite again tomorrow, right? Same thing for you. Hey, there it is. You're going to have those needs and those appetites. We have renewed appetites every day. So let's just kind of talk through what these needs mean. Let's start with our yellows. Yellows have a need for approval. That means they want to be liked for who they are without having to change anything. They want to be accepted by being invited and included. They have FOMO, fear of missing out. They want intention. They like to have full focus, especially when it comes to eye contact. They want to be noticed and acknowledged. That's what affection means. For our reds, they want loyalty. They want to know that their needs are being prioritized, and they want to know that, hey, I have your back. In sense of control, they want to know that everyone is pulling their own weight and everybody is following the plan because they made the plan. They also want to be appreciated by having value for their unique strengths and being given credit for the contribution that they've given. Our blues, they want to know that they're safe. And that doesn't just mean like they wear a life jacket. Sometimes it means they wear a life jacket. But they want to be able to trust their surroundings. They want to be able to trust their relationships. You're going to hear blues express this desire. I want to be able to trust you. They're very sensitive and they want to be understood. They want to have support. They want to offer or provide help, which is interesting. Your blues are ones that are like planning for every problem, right? But at the same time, like I was talking to my daughter about this last night, she goes, I have everything planned for, but I want to know that you're going to be there for me in case I miss something. They want to know they're supported. They also need space and silence, having a time to decompress and process and think about those things internally. Our greens, harmony. They want to see everyone getting along. They want everything to go smoothly. They want to have a feeling of worth and be valued for their unique strengths. Sometimes greens are very individualistic. They like, I want you to know that I am unique, and I want you to value how special I am. They want, for lack of stress, they just want an absence of conflict. They want an absence of combative words. So like coming at them and saying, giving something that's going to pick a fight, provoke a fight, that's going to shut a green down. And they want to have respect. They want their thoughts and their opinions to be asked and acknowledged. Like I said a minute ago, my daughter Ashton is a blue. She's a very conscientious person. She knows all of the things that she has to do on her plate. Sometimes she doesn't even have to write them down. She just knows them. She has a running list in her head. So most of the time when she comes home from school, I can't really engage her in conversation right away. She needs to just go be in her room for a little bit with a little bit of space and silence to process everything that she needs to do next. And like I said, she wants me to be there to support her just in case something falls through. In my home, Kevin, who's a red, values appreciation for times he's been generous or thoughtful and is taken care of. He loves a good thank you. When our kids were little, we would go out and get ice cream, like the $1 ice cream at McDonald's, and we would drive away. And Kevin would suddenly be in a mood, and I'm like, why is that? He's like, nobody has said thank you. And so our kids were trained really, really young, say thank you. Like if dad takes us out for dinner, if dad takes us out for something special, if he gets you something special, say thank you. He really values that. He wants to know he's appreciated. Me, I'm a yellow. I have a need for full attention. So when I come home, if I'm cooking dinner, sometimes I'll have my phone just and I'll watch a video or listen to a podcast. But when someone else comes into the room, I pause it because I want full attention. I want my full attention to be toward them. And by like token, I want full attention back. So if I'm telling Kevin a story and he's in the middle of a text message or in the middle of doing something, I will stop. And he'll go, okay, I'm done with my text message. What were you saying? Like, you have my full attention. He kind of knows that I need that. And I'm not usually mad about it. I just wait because I want you to pay attention to what I have to say. Even in my classroom, I'll look at my students and I'll say, I need to see your eyes so I know you're paying attention to me. They could be listening and doing something, but no, I need to see your eyes. Andy, he's a green, and he's getting ready to go to college. He's looking for a place to live with 2 of his roommates. He's going to be going to St. Petersburg. And because, I don't know, his 2 roommates, they're also first children. So we've got the parents of 3 firstborns also involved in this. And so one day the mamas all got together, and they're like, we got to figure this out. None of us really know what we're doing. And so the mamas have been mobilized. The mamas have been mobilized to figure out where our boys are going to live, how we're going to find a place. And so we were talking about it. We've been texting back and forth. And Kevin and I have been talking about how we're going to plan to make everything work financially and practically. And so one day I noticed that Andy's kind of upset about this. And I'm like, bro, what's the deal? And he says, I thought these were my decisions. These decisions are being made about me, but nobody's asking me for my ideas. You know I have really good ideas, right? He wanted that respect, like, ask me my opinion. I have good ideas. And I was like, okay, I see what you need. So we can look at this verse. It says we can look for others to fulfill our needs, and we can say the things that we need to hear, or we can look to the Word of God and hear from truth from Jehovah Jireh. He's our provider. God is the one that supplies our needs. I know we want to have these needs fulfilled by others, but ultimately these needs are fulfilled in Christ. Philippians 4:19 says, my God will supply every need of yours according to his riches and glory. I know those mean physical needs, but they also could mean emotional needs, temperamental needs. When the needs of a person aren't being met, there we go. When the needs of a person aren't being met, sometimes you will see these weaknesses move to an extreme, and each temperament has a unique way to manipulate circumstances to ensure that those needs are met. The yellows manipulate with charm and flattery because they want attention and affection. The reds manipulate with tone and volume. They get loud because they want to know you're loyal and they want a sense of control. Blues tend to manipulate with moods and silence. They're sensitive to criticism. They need support. When they don't think they're getting support, they're going to be a mood. They're going to be silent. They need space, so they're going to have like perfect space and silence. And the greens, they want respect and they want lack of stress. So when they're not getting it, they procrastinate, they put things off, and they're stubborn. Seeing these needs and manipulations together, like this can be a telltale sign of how you can identify in other people what's going on with them. This was one of the things that helped me to recognize what my kids are, because specifically like my son Andy, when his needs aren't being met, he is a very stubborn person. And it took me a while. He was a little bit of a hard nut to crack. And I'm not sure I actually have it figured out right. But as I'm learning him, as I'm learning about his needs, I see that he really needs this respect and lack of stress. And when he doesn't have it, he can be very, very stubborn. All right, so this is one of the main verses that I want to focus on for the rest of our time together. It's Ephesians 4:29. It says, do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouths, but only what is helpful for the building others up according to their needs, so it can benefit those who have listened. Up until this point, we've talked about ourselves, right? We've talked about our strengths, our weaknesses, our needs. But what if we flipped this on the head? What if we took a look at the people around us? Instead of focusing on our own needs, let's look at the people around us and see if we can identify their needs. Let's take an educated guess about their temperament. Instead of like thinking about ourselves, think about their needs. Say something that speaks positively about their need. Do something that would benefit and support that need. I'm pretty sure my youngest Jack is a blue, so I know he needs support and sensitivity. He needs silence and space. Those are his innate needs. He is a very methodical kid. He's methodical when he plays video games. He's methodical when he interacts with friends. He's methodical with his homework and projects. So but for me, like, I want stuff done around the house. I want us to be able to get this work done so we can have fun, right? Yellow. And so sometimes Jack does not get his chores done very fast. He just doesn't. He spends so much time on his homework. So instead of badgering him about how much time the project is taking him so he doesn't have time to get his chores done, which is my need, I need him to get the chores done so he can have fun, instead of badgering about how much time this is taking and telling him he's overthinking it and telling him that he should be done by now, because that would just result in moods and silence, I should try this instead. Like, hey, bud, I know you probably want some extra time to make sure your project is just right. Would it be helpful if I let you do your chores in the kitchen tomorrow instead of today so you have more time to complete the project? I give him something he needs. I give him space to get it done. Again, I said that Andy's getting ready to go to college. Andy values a lack of stress, and he values respect for his ideas, respect for his timetable. He has several things that he has to do before he can register for classes. And as a mom, I'm going, you've got to do, like, you got to email this person, you got to take a placement test, you got to make sure you've connected with this academic advisor. He's got like 4 things to do. He's got to write an essay, right? So instead of badgering him with this thing that he needs to do so he can get on to college and enjoy himself, instead of pushing those things on him, especially these ones that are difficult for him, he's got some academic challenges, so he doesn't really like writing, but he has to write an essay. That would add stress to him because it's difficult. He values lack of stress. So instead, I would say to him, hey, these are the next things that you need to do in order to register for classes, and I know you're excited about going for college. Here's the list, and I'm keep it really short. And then I'm going to ask him, hey, what are your thoughts on getting them done? I know you always come up with solid solutions, and I'm sure you've already thought about them because he internalizes. How can I help this be less stressful for you and help it not fall through the cracks? That's how I've had to learn to talk with my son. And I'm not very good at it, by the way. I'm working on it. I love this verse in Colossians. Let your speech be always gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you may know how you ought to answer to each person. When I see that word gracious, grace is an undeserved, unearned favor from God. So when we speak to each other in gracious ways, in ways that they have not earned and they don't deserve, in ways that meets their needs instead of your own, it reflects the good favor and the grace that God has shown to us and that we can freely to give others. Man, just saying that, I feel like my blood pressure went down, right? Okay. I think it's very interesting that it says seasoned with salt. We had a girl in our youth group in St. Augustine before we moved here. She was a fiery red, and she was very quick-tempered and very aggressive in how she spoke and demanding. She was super bossy, and she gave her life to Christ in our youth group, and she realized, hey, I can be pretty off-putting with how bossy I am. I'm pretty quick to tell people off. And Kevin shared this verse with you. Let your speech be always gracious, seasoned with salt. And she goes, why is seasoned salt in the middle of the verse? And so Kevin was like, no, in that day, salt was a preservative. It was used to keep things fresh and to keep things usable. And so salt as a preservative, as a metaphor for a preservative in a relationship, how can we use words that would preserve relationships? How can we use our words to keep relationships together and strong versus fractured and, messy, right? So this girl, whenever she would interact with people, we would see her in youth group, if she would start to go off and she would start to be super sassy, Kevin would kind of look at her and go, ch-ch-ch-ch. Like seasoned salt. And she's like, you're right, seasoned salt. And she would just tone it way down, right? So let your speech be gracious, seasoned with salt, so that you know how you ought to answer each person. Now, I know you might be sitting here and going, oh my goodness, I know a little bit, but there's so much I don't know. I felt like that preparing this. How can I share these things? There's so much I don't know. I am not perfect at it. 9 times out of 10, I was going to say 10 times out of 10, 9 times out of 10, I'm going to respond to people based on my own needs and what I need. I'm going to manipulate in order to get my needs met. How do I know how to say these things that would honor someone else? The beautiful thing is that we serve the God of all knowledge. And we can ask him, God, I need your knowledge to help me interact. I'm wondering if you're thinking about a difficult relationship right now. I have a hard time talking to this person. We just seem to clash. Every time we talk, it's like, meh, right? Ask the God of all knowledge to show you, to teach you how to season your relationships with salt, to speak in a gracious way, to administer grace to the hearers. I'm going to try to go back to this verse. Yes. Do not let any unwholesome talk come out of your mouth, but only what is helpful for the needs of building others up according to their needs, that it may benefit those who listen. All right, we've got about 15 minutes left, a little bit less than 15 minutes. I would really like for us to end our time together by processing a little bit more again. So we talked about needs, and we talked about ways people manipulate to get their needs met. And so I want you to talk about these questions. How do you see the needs of your temperament show up in your life? Like, how do those needs show up? When your needs aren't being filled, how do you react? What sort of things help you when your needs aren't being filled? Have you identified the temperament of anyone else in your family as we've talked today? And what has helped you to identify them? And how can you build each other up? All right, so let me pray for you guys, and the rest of the time is yours. I think Shannon's going to come up at the end to close us. So let's pray for a few minutes, and I really appreciate the time that we've had together today. God, we love you. God, this was really challenging to hear about the way you've designed us. You've designed us intentionally with purpose so that we can work together and we can build each other up, so we can build up our families, our places of work, our communities, our churches. God, thank you for your design. You are a good God, and we praise you for it. As we leave this time today, I know I feel heavy in my soul because I know I don't always speak in a gracious way. I don't always have the needs of the other person in my forefront. I'm 9 times out of 10 more worried about my own needs. So God, I confess that to you. That's sin, and I need a Savior for it. And we thank you for sending Jesus to die on the cross to pay for our sins. And we accept your forgiveness. But God, we ask you, because you're the God of all knowledge, would you help us to see and have eyes to see the needs of the people around us? Would you help us to have ears to listen to what's being said, and help us to have the knowledge of what to say so that no unwholesome talk comes out of our mouths, but only what is good, that would be edifying, that would administer grace to the hearer, that would be seasoned with salt and preserving of relationships. Ultimately, so that we can work together, and that our conversation and our relationships bring glory and honor to you, and help your kingdom purposes go forth on the earth. God, more than anything, we want to see you glorified. God, we pray that in our next few minutes together, as we process these things, that you would be in the discussions, in the tables, that you would bring encouragement to people and their relationships, and we are trusting you for it. We ask these things in your name. Amen. All right, the next few minutes are yours.